Hi, so today we're looking at the scientific misconduct example of Sophie Jamal. So Dr. Sophie Jamal was a Canadian endocrinologist and former osteoporosis researcher. She received her MD from the University of Toronto with a concentration in internal medicine and endocrinology. She also had a PhD from the University of Toronto in osteoporosis-related clinical epidemiology. As a staff member at the Women's College Hospital, she was also a scientist at its research institute and was also an associate professor there. So she held many roles during her time of success. She also received respect, especially as a woman in her field, because she was highlighting women's health issues. She really made waves for women's health. And those who knew her, including professional colleagues, characterized her as having high moral standing and ethics. So this allegation and later results proved to be way out of the norm of what people had interpreted her research to be like. So her most famous research starts in 1998 on whether nitrates could treat or prevent osteoporosis. This research was published in 2004, and against the placebo, it was found that nitrates actually did have a positive result. So then her subsequent research focused on nitroglycerin, which is actually used as a vasodilator historically to treat heart conditions, but her research focused on its application to osteoporosis. So this is the molecular structure up here in the photograph. This research was published in 2011 and found that it was safe and effective to treat osteoporosis. Nitroglycerin supposedly increased bone density in elderly women, and this was so novel because typical osteoporosis treatments actually had really dangerous side effects. So this was amazing for women's health, for osteoporosis health. In fact, Dr. Jamal ended up earning 260,000 Canadian dollars in grant money for a follow-up study in 2012. She won the CSEM Young Investigator Award in 2012, earning even more grant money from the Canadian Society of Endocrinology and Metabolism. So again, she was making waves, she was super successful, was earning all these grants and support until her colleague, Richard Estell, found incongruencies between data and her reports. So he grew concerned. He decided to conduct an independent statistical analysis in 2014, and in fact found no difference between the treatment and placebo groups. So Dr. Jamal blamed her research assistant and conducted a massive cover-up, which definitely looked sketchy. She physically manipulated patient files, she destroyed an old computer, she modified temperature controls at the Canadian Blood Service Center, which inevitably damaged blood and urine specimens. So she took a lot of steps to cover up this fraud. After, intense scrutiny, the Women's College Hospital investigated these claims of, scientific misconduct. Dr. Jamal was eventually found guilty and ended up resigning from all of her positions as professor, as researcher. On the panel that investigated her, one of the investigators stated that this was the worst case of research fraud ever dealt with by the college in its history. That was a bold statement. The Journal of American Medical Association, they pulled this research on nitroglycerin, and any follow-up research obviously was canceled. Dr. Jamal had to pay back these grants, which is obviously a huge financial burden. And in 2018, Dr. Jamal was stripped of her medical license. So the reason I'm calling her Dr. Jamal now is that she reapplied for her license in February 2020, and it was reinstated sort of on the condition that she must maintain mental health therapy and treatment and restrict her practice to just clinical work instead of research work. So Dr. Jamal has come out and made statements stating that while misguided, potentially her actions were due to mental health issues, depression in particular, and an intense upbringing that centered around high achievement. So this is one prime example of scientific misconduct with serious repercussions. Losing that research, position and all the grant funding was huge for Dr. Jamal's career, and obviously now she's dealing with the fallout as a clinician. Thanks for watching.